wasn't sure we were going to make it tonight, folks. You can see I'm here at Casa Otto, and the furry roommates have done nothing to help get the show on the road tonight. In fact, they kind of set me behind a little bit, but I think we're ready to go. Got a couple of show and tell things, and then I have just a very few slides tonight, but I did have a matter of discussion that I wanted to throw out to, and it's courtesy of you, Laura. So we can get to that in a little bit. Folks, be thinking about tulips and squirrels, and we'll address that subject in just a little bit. We're going to actually start off. We're going to go into the Wayback Machine, and we're going to go back. This was like maybe a year ago. And Bill and Kathy, if you're on tonight, you might remember this little gift. This is a ball of feathers, just what it looks like. And I believe it's goose feathers. I believe it is breast feathers, actually, from a goose. And at the time when you found it, and we decided it was feathers, I wasn't really able to find out too much more about it. Well, a few weeks ago, another one of these showed up. Nearly identical in size and shape and feeling too. So you can see there's down. So this was like all the way down to the skin, plucked off. Another one showed up, and this is where having furry roommates sometimes it works against me. In this case, it may have helped a little bit. So this was another ball. However, tech support puppy decided that he was going to help me figure this out. In fact, he's going to help us figure it out again tonight. So he got a hold of it when I wasn't looking, and the ball suddenly was pulled apart into a whole bunch of pieces. But it helped to solve the mystery, because at the center of the ball, so you can kind of see it on this one. Maybe you can't, the way the light's hitting it. There's some skin, there's some tissue at the center of the ball. So I went online, and I was kind of looking on some tracking forums and some other animal sign forums, and found one reference. Here's one. So there's there's skin at the base of these feathers. And once I read it, I'm like, gosh, this makes a whole lot of sense. So when a bird of prey takes an animal, takes another bird down, they always pluck the bird. So if you see a big pile of feathers in your yard, you can be pretty sure it was a bird that was the predator in that case. Mammals tend to haul things off, rip them apart, but they don't carefully pluck them. With these feather balls, this was probably a fairly large bird. I'm going to guess either a red-tailed hawk or maybe even an eagle, who plucked. He's at it again. These must smell really, really good when you're a dog. Anyway, what felt like maybe cartilage or bone at the center, because it is very stiff and sharp, it's actually skin. And so as the skin with the feathers is plucked off of the bird, and then cast aside, that skin dries out and shrinks and pulls all the feathers together. As it shrinks down, these feathers form this ball. So now, did we solve the mystery of who the predator was? Well, bird of prey is about as close as I want to get at this point, but maybe if we can find a few more of these and do a little bit more detective work, maybe we can figure out even more. A bird as big as a goose, we're usually talking about an eagle. This one, yeah, it might have been a goose. It might have been a male mallard duck. which then I know I have seen red-tailed hawks preying on those animals before. All right, I'm going to put this back before we have another feather explosion. Actually, I'm going to go into the treasure box here. I'm going to bring out just a couple more things. It's funny how these little findings seem to go in, they come in groups. I'll go for months and I won't see any shrews. And then all of a sudden, we'll find a whole bunch. So, last week we talked about that owl pellet that was up at North Cemetery, and there was a rodent skull in the pellet, but there was also a shrew skull. I'm pretty sure, judging from the size of that skull, that this is the type of shrew that came from. This is the northern short-tailed shrew. You can see they're about the size of a mouse, but that's where the similarities. And shrews have a really soft. I wish you could feel this fur. It's feels like the fur of a mole, which would make sense. A mole is an insectivore that tunnels through the ground. A shrew is an insectivore that stays above the ground and hunts its prey. Shrews have a full dentition. They've got not just incisors and molars, but they've got canines and all the sorts of teeth that you would need to take out, prey. They eat insects, but they'll raid mouse nests. They're fierce little guys, guys and gals, and they come in a couple different sizes. Now, this is another short-tailed shrew. Again, short tail, deep gray color. These are really quite prevalent around our area. See that the eyes are almost invisible. They've got tiny little eyes. They mostly navigate. Let me see if that'll come into focus or not. Boy, it's kind of fuzzy still. They use these whiskers. I can kind of see it there reflected against my finger. They navigate by scent and by touch using these long whiskers, and they cruise through the grass. A lot of times they are underneath bird feeders, and they're drawn by the insects beneath there, as well as rodents that come to feed on the seeds. Now we've also got these shrews. You can notice it has a really long tail. There. I wonder what I got in my hand. This is a masked shrew. This is, I would say, just as common, maybe even more so, but because they're so tiny, they're harder to spot. But these things die with great frequency. They reproduce rapidly. But they live, they're the classic example of live fast and die young. If they live a year, they've lived a long time. They have an extremely high metabolism. They have to eat something like every 15 minutes or something, or they'll starve. So they're constantly burning through the calories that they consume. Which again, even these little guys, they're also predators. Now, will they take mammal prey the way these guys do? It'd have to be a pretty small mammal, but I could see, in a mouse nest, feeding on little pinky mice, the very, very young ones. But I find these just laying on the trail, they just sort of go. And then when they stop, it's usually right out in the open. And yeah, I've never really written down a date of when I find these, but it is kind of funny how when I find one, and these weren't all in the same place either. One was at Hickory Knolls, one was in my backyard, one was at Delnor Woods. So it's not like it's something happened in one spot. This has been all over town. But keep your eyes open for shrews. These are we've got a few other types in Illinois, but the masked shrew and the northern short-tailed are the ones most commonly seen here in Northern Illinois in Kane County. All right, put them here in our treasure box. The next thing I had for you, I'm going to see, it's going to be another technological challenge. It's not that big of a deal other than that it's an audio file, and I've had trouble getting those to play sometimes. So let me see if I can pull it up here and get it so that I can hear it, but even better than get it so that you can hear it. Let's see here. Okay, so maybe the thing to do here is pull up. This was a recording on a Ring camera. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to share the screen here. Where are we? We are. All right. So I'm going to make sure we optimize for sound. And then we're going to go here and let's go here. All right. Is everybody seeing what says nest? All right. Now this was, I believe this was like 3 o'clock in the morning. So this was a recording sent over to Good Natured World headquarters by a fellow Park District employee. It was recorded at, I think she said it was like 3 or 3:30 in the morning. I'm not sure if there's a timestamp on here. It was in the middle of the night, and it woke everybody in the house. And they then, they checked the camera recording, and they caught all of it. It sounded frightening. They were not sure what it was. They thought maybe, an animal was in fear of its life. Let's listen to a portion of it again. We'll notice that the creature that's making it changing directions, maybe even moving. Okay, so that sounds a little farther away now. It sounds closer. Notice it's extremely insistent and repetitive, maybe even kind of demanding. Some of you might recognize the sound. And it's occurring in neighborhoods throughout the area right now. This is the sound of an immature great horned owl who is really, really hungry and is waiting for mom and or dad to bring it something to eat. For the first several months of their lives, even most of their first year of life, great horned owls don't hoot. That characteristic sound that the adults make, and they're hooting back and forth. They don't start out with that. And so this is the begging sound. Owls, great horned owls in this area, a lot of them are fledging. In fact, some of them fledged about the first week of April. Just because they leave the nest doesn't mean that they've left the care of mom and dad. Usually the nest is something that, doesn't always last all that long. Great horned owls don't build their own nests, and they're pretty hard on them, especially as those babies are getting bigger. So when they leave the nest, and head out on their own. It's a lot of times it's because the nest is, about done for. Not always the case, but they do get out and on the move. They can fly, but they haven't acquired the other skills they need for survival. So yeah, keep your ears open, keep your ring cameras on if you want to hear it, because it is a sound that we'll probably be hearing now for the next several months. Sometimes it can sound almost cat-like, like a cat yowling. The key, though, is that repetitive nature. Birds, especially young birds that are in a begging mode, they just keep asking until they get what they want. It's pretty cool, huh? All right, let's go to some slides. Boy, I had a lot of tabs open today, didn't I? All right, let's go back to this here. And we'll just start with this one. This is one of, I think, dare I say, a favorite of many people when we talk about springtime wildflowers. This is the large flowered Trillium grandiflorum. It's not the most common Trillium that we have in this area. But it is, it appears in select forest preserves here in King County, and actually in a few places around the state. Let's go to this range map here. So this is from the great website, Illinois Wildflowers. And for every listing on that site, they have a distribution map. And you can see, it's pretty solid here in northeastern Illinois, and scattered locations throughout the rest of the state. But it's not what I would call a super common wildflower. Johnson's Mound, Elburn Forest Preserve, Teckwitha Woods, some years has a ton, and some years has next to none. This is a flower. Let's go back to it here. It's a flower that's very popular with deer. Another neat thing about the Illinois Wildflowers website is it has a section, so it gives all the botanical information about what you need to identify the plant, the leaves, the bloom, the stem, the different information like that. But then it also has a section called faunal associations, where it talks about what insects come to this plant. Does it have any connections to certain birds or mammals? And this large flower Trillium, it doesn't really have a lot of insect pollinators. The small carpenter bee, which is doesn't look at all like the carpenter bee we looked at last week. The small carpenter bee is a lot smaller, and it's got kind of a metallic sheen to it. It will visit this flower. This flower actually does provide both pollen and nectar, but it's not super popular with our pollinators. It is very popular with the ants. This is one of many, many flowers, springtime wildflowers, that rely on ants to have their seeds distributed. So it does attach the elizome, the mixture of fats and sugars that ants seem to love. And so it does have a connection with those insects, but yeah, it doesn't attract a lot of pollinators. Deer, though, do eat it. I think that has something to do with how it comes and goes at Teckwitha. It's browsed heavily, as is its very common relative. This is Trillium recurvatum. It's one of the few wildflowers I can always remember the Latin for, because the leaves do recurve. They go back towards the stem. And of course, this is one, it makes it easy to see too why this is called Trillium, the plant of threes. We've got the the 3 sepals, the 3 petals, the 3 leaves, 3 times 3 times 3. Now this is another plant not super popular with pollinators. The dark coloring, a lot of times when we see these dark maroon flowers, it means that they are attractive to insects like beetles and flies, and there are a couple of beetles and flies that will pollinate this plant. But again, not one where you're just going to see, waves of our early native bees being drawn to this plant. It too is popular with deer. It too is popular with ants. So it puts the elizome, the fat and the sugar around its seeds too, and the ants will carry that away. There is some indication too, though, that when deer browse on this plant, that the seeds can withstand the deer's digestive tract and get deposited as the deer wander through the woods too. So could be that in addition to ants, this particular Trillium has some benefit from being consumed by deer. I didn't see reference to that with the large Trillium. I would think if it happens with this one, it would happen with the other one too, though. Maybe just as something somebody else needs to study. Right. Both of these are appearing now in our woods. I hope some of you are participating in our spring ephemerals project on iNaturalist. Oh, in fact, that reminds me, that was something I was going to bring up, and I don't know. If you'll bear with me here, I'm going to open up yet another tab. Let's see, I don't want to log in. I just want to explore. We had a little thing come up at the Nature Center yesterday. It was one of our employees at the Nature Center. She was so excited. Let me try that again. There we go. Very excited because there was a sighting of a smooth green snake in Kane County, very near Fearson Creek Fen. And let's see, this is 21. Hold on, let me see if I can. It was May 3rd of 2021. Goes this one here. So yeah, here's the sighting. And here is the map. And if we open this up here, we can see this dot here. Yeah, we zoom in a little bit farther. It is right above the fen in the neighborhood north of Fearson Creek Fen. So anyway, the employee was very excited, and she's actually working on a little guide for Nature Center visitors that shows what snakes are likely to be seen in Kane County. And it'll include the different types of garter snakes that we have, and the northern water snake, and little brown snakes. There's maybe half a dozen, maybe 8 different species. She said, should I include green snakes? Well, if we go back to the sighting here and we look at who reported it, it's actually a very reliable person. Some of you might recognize this name. This is Allison, who heads up the Calling Frog Survey, the regional Calling Frog Survey. She works at the Peggy Nodebart Museum. She's a research herpetologist. She's actually involved in a smooth green snake reintroduction program up in Lake County. So she knows her stuff. And there's no doubt she found a smooth green snake. Here's another photo Smooth green snakes, if we go off on just a little bit of a tangent, they used to be pretty common throughout the area. Some people call them grass snakes. My old boss, when I worked at Red Oak, he grew up on the south side of Chicago. He said they found these things all over the place, especially around railroad tracks. Well, and changing land uses, increase uses of insecticides and pesticides. This is a snake that doesn't get very large, and it eats invertebrate prey, so it eats a lot of insects. So our use of pesticides has had taken a heavy toll on this species. This gets a little fuzzy here when we zoom in, doesn't it? But it's called smooth green snake because it doesn't have any keels on its scales. There is also in Illinois a rough green snake. We don't see it up here in the northern part of the state. It's more in the southern part. It tends to be more arboreal. You see it a lot of times in small trees or shrubs. But this is a snake that does occur in some prairies in the area. It does not occur in the neighborhood north of Fearson Creek Fence. So when I saw this, I sent Allison an email and I said, dare we hope that this is a sighting? What struck me as a little bit odd was that, there was such an exact location, and she wrote back right away. She said, yeah, I don't disclose the locations of any green snakes that we find. So this was a kind of a iNaturalist blip, a GPS blip that occurred. And she said that this was actually a DuPage County green snake that she had taken a picture of. I was kind of bummed because this did kind of look like the upland area at the fen. I thought this was great. She was wearing gloves, like a good herpetologist will do, especially with a sensitive species like this. But it just, to me, underscored the caution that we need to use when we're relying on, it is a growing database, and I think iNaturalist gets better every single day, but it's not infallible. Some people use it for identifications, and it's always good to back up your findings with another source as well. But what was kind of cool in her response was that she said she will definitely let us know if and when she finds a smooth green snake in St. Charles. So she wasn't like, yeah, no, never going to happen, dream on. Or maybe she was just being kind. But anyway, it was another learning excursion as we all start to learn more about the ins and outs of these online databases like iNaturalist. How did we get there? Oh, because I said I hope I hope some of you are participating in our iNaturalist Spring Ephemerals project. If not, and you'd like more information, shoot me an email or put a notice in the chats. We'd be glad to get you some information on that. Speaking of chats, let's take a look at that before we head back to our slides for tonight. So yes, Sarah, I've got some info on plant sales at the end, so we'll get to that. And Laura saw lots of white trillium in Little Woods at Corn Farm. Good to know. That's another place to go check them out. The Illinois Wildflowers website. Thank you, Sarah. IllinoisWildflowers.info. And what I do a lot of times, Sherry, is I will type in the name of the flower that I want to learn more about, and I'll just follow it with the all one word, Illinois Wildflowers. And I'll put that in my search engine, and that'll take me to the site as well. But it's I don't know if I have a page from that up, but it's based down in Champaign, and yeah, here, just getting those range maps for the flowers. So here's how the pages appear. And then this one, they have the distribution map on the page. Sometimes there's a link in the text, but yeah, it's a very comprehensive online resource that's more and more becoming a go-to for me because it's so specific to our state. Okay, let's tell you what, let's go back to our slides here. So another thing that has come back on the docket at the Park District is the subject of building an Osprey nest platform. And it's something that we talked about in the district back in 2016. We were actually pretty serious about it at that time, looking to cut down some of the branches from some of our ash trees that had died due to emerald ash borer. They were still solid trees. They just were no longer living. And we thought if we could top some of those ash trees along the river and build a nest platform, maybe we could attract an osprey nest, nesting pair of osprey to the St. Charles stretch of the Fox River. Well, it didn't really work out. The ash trees we found that were solid were surrounded by ash trees that were not so solid. And the fear was that if a storm came through, those weakened trees would take down the stronger trees. Anyway, we did though have a gentleman, a board member from Illinois Audubon come up and he surveyed the site. He said, St. Charles does have some really good habitat along the river. But again, we opted not to pursue it at that time. Well, now there's a local group, River Corridor Foundation, who is looking very seriously at putting up they've got funds reserved. They want to build a nest platform along the river in St. Charles. Well, we took that information back to Illinois Audubon, and the guidance we got was, well, you might want to see what else is going on in the area. And I think we've talked about this before. There are nests popping up in a lot of different places, not right in St. Charles proper, but West Chicago, Wayne. This one, just learned about this this past week. This is it's not a cell tower. The West Chicago and the Wayne nests. In fact, there's one up just a little bit west of Burnage Forest Preserve too that's on a cell tower. This looks like more of like an electrical structure. This is at Butterfield and Winfield roads in the town of Warrenville. Now, wasn't lucky enough to see the bird land on this nest. And I kind of wonder, I don't know what the tops of these poles are like. I don't know if there's a bowl up there, an indentation, or if a strong wind could just blow this whole nest off the top there. But this Winfield and Butterfield roads, this is very close to the large lakes that are at Blackwell Forest Preserve. It's also not too terribly far west from Herrick's Lake in Wheaton. And there's probably some subdivision ponds that are near this nest too. But the guidance from Illinois Audubon is to let the osprey, I tried to zoom in here, it just got kind of blurry. The osprey are more and more choosing these man-made structures. We'll see. We're going to meet with River Corridor folks on Thursday. They've got a couple locations they're sizing up, and we have a couple too within the Park District that we want to propose to them. So I'll keep you posted on that. It does look like there will be a nest platform built. It will then, be up to the osprey to decide whether they want to use it. Osprey are a species where it's the male of a pair that decides, they choose the nest location. And it's usually close to the male's natal territory where that bird hatched at. So the male will bring a female back to where he hatched. Now, we haven't had any nests in St. Charles, but there are several nests at Fermilab. And again, there's the one just east of us here in West Chicago. So as those birds that are fledged from those nests mature, it's not, they're not ready to breed their first year. It takes a few years for them to mature, but as they become of breeding age, I think it could be likely that we will see osprey wanting to nest here in St. Charles. So this was just kind of a funny little thing. The last couple of days, I have been doing some preschool programs as we get into school program season at Hickory Knolls. I was called on to go visit our friends over at Hosanna Lutheran Church over on Redgate Road here in St. Charles. And they just wanted, some animals for the kids to meet. So when we talk about animals at Hickory Knolls, chances are pretty good. Some of them are going to be snakes. And yesterday it was Sweetie Corn's turn to go on the road. She's an enormous corn snake that we have. Not so much in length. All of our corn snakes are about 4 feet long, but Sweetie, she knows how to feed. And in fact, she's got, when corn snakes get overweight, they get what are called corn snake hips. You can kind of see it here. So here's her tail, and see how she kind of sticks out here. She's got, we could pinch an inch, shall we say, on Sweetie. Anyway, she's such a good sport. She let all the kids, touch her, and they asked a bunch of questions. Well, one little girl said, "Can snakes climb?" Because we were talking about how they move, how they use their muscles and their ribs to move their body along. Well, she wanted to know, would it be possible for a snake to climb? Actually, corn snakes, being members of the rat snake family, they are really good climbers. And in the back of this room, being a church, I don't know if this was a Palm Sunday palm tree. It wasn't a real palm tree, but it looked, like it might be good for climbing. Well, Sweetie, she just got really comfortable in there. This is probably, I took this picture probably a good 5 minutes after the kids left the room. I could not get her untwisted. She was all wound around in the fronds there, and just really relaxed. In fact, thinking as we go through the stages of our Hickory Knolls renovation that's set to start next month, I'm going to suggest that we add more greenery and more climbing opportunities for our snakes, because it's really good enrichment. All right, I think we go. Oh, okay. This is I'm just putting this out there. This is little Stevie. This was an email that I received from little Stevie's, I guess would be his grandfather. So little Stevie came home with a woman who was in college in the 1990s. So she, I believe she came home, she graduated in 1996. And then when she left home in 1998, she packed up all her things, but she did not take little Stevie with her. So, little Stevie has been living with Grandpa for, 25 years. And Grandpa is thinking he's done being a turtle grandpa, and he's hoping that he can find a home for it. He asked if I might know of anyone who would like a little red-eared slider as a pet. So I'm just putting it out there. This is a species, they are so very common that they are not, I don't know of any rescue groups that take red-eared sliders anymore. We don't have any room in our Hickory Knolls turtle pond for any more turtles. So I'm just putting out there, if you know of someone who's seriously considering adding a turtle. And the nice thing about an older turtle like this is you're not committing the next 40 years of your life. 40 years, 35 years, something in that range is about the lifespan of a red-eared slider. I don't know how old little Stevie was when the daughter brought him home, but we're at least 27 years into his time on this planet. So yep, pass the word around if you know somebody who's looking for a turtle, pass it on to me, and I would be glad to make those connections. Now, before we get into our announcements here at the end, Laura, I'm going to bring up your question here for the group. And if you're, I think you're on tonight. Laura, are you here? Yeah, because you made a comment earlier. Yes, so you made an observation. And I guess your husband.
Yeah, well, we've both seen it, and I've seen it happen since I was growing up. But my husband decided to plant some tulips this year. I always plant daffodils because I know most things don't get them, and we've seen it happen before, and we noticed it a few days ago. We had some really pretty yellow tulips, full bloom, and we went out there the next day coming home from work, and they were just the whole tulip had been completely, the whole tulip flower had been completely knocked off on the ground, intact. Nothing had eaten it or gotten into it. And I've seen that happen before, where a squirrel will just go up to a tulip and not seem to want to eat any part of it, but just knock the top right off and leave it like that. And my question was, I don't I don't understand why the squirrels do that.
Well, and I said I was going to Google it. I just now am typing it in. I don't see a reason popping up. The Seattle Times, keeping squirrels out of the tulip patch. The first few references were talking about them digging up the bulbs.
No.
And I
know they do that, but
people complain about, especially container bulbs. Seems like they recognize that. Now this is about.
I've seen them do it with crocuses too, where they just knock the flower down and scamper away. It's like they have something against them.
Well, and I told you the gentleman that used to have a community garden plot, his beautifully planted home. He said that they were only chewing the flowers off of, and it's like they nip right below the blossom, and then the flower falls off. And
they're just beautiful lying there on the ground, but they haven't seem to have been nibbled on or anything. And it's happened many times, and I just didn't know if anybody knew.
Yeah, good natured group. Has anybody had any experience?
This is Diane. I think I just found it. It says that during the fall, squirrels and rodents dig up the bulbs. They're tempted by the freshly turned earth in search of their fellow creatures' stash of tasty nuts. They dig up the newly planted bulbs and ruin them before winter. So it's the freshly turned earth. Probably when the tulip pokes through the earth, and therefore the squirrel thinks that there's nuts in there.
Okay,
that makes sense.
That makes sense for the bulb. Does it say anything, Diane, about them chewing the blossoms off of the flowering plant?
Not in this little blurb, but let me keep looking.
Yeah. I know you've got excellent research skills. And I remember my folks going through this. My dad had some pretty elaborate tulip plans over the years, and the squirrels, one year it was his Labrador puppy that dug them up. I think then it was the freshly turned earth there too. She thought she was helping daddy, but with the flowers, I don't know, because they, like you noticed, Laura, they don't eat any of, they just nip the, is there some kind of liquid in the stem that they lap up?
Because I've seen it through, when I lived at, my parents' home, we'd find that even, or see it even, and crocuses too. So yeah, it's just a mystery to me. It makes me think of my younger sister has a series of books for children, and they all start with those darn squirrels. So maybe they're just messing with us, so I don't know.
Are you gonna write a book?
Yeah, I think I could.
Well,
Here's
now
another- Here's another letter that says that tulip bulbs are like toys for squirrels.
Ah, well, maybe the flowers are too. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Maybe
Yeah.
do they wear them?
they're making a bouquet.
Yeah. Oh, well, if anyone finds anything else out, I've always been curious and more than a little annoyed at times. They don't do it to daffodils, though. That's all I'll say.
So I don't know, it's always good when you're doing internet research, you want to look at your sources because it could just be somebody, writing what's on the top of their head. And I don't know, this is a website called Laid Back Gardener Blog. And it's basically a rant about doing exactly what you're describing, Laura. The bulbs have worked hard to survive the winter and the gardener worked hard to plant them. So that's 6 months of effort. Plus the squirrels have plenty of other things to eat in the spring. The season of abundance has begun. They don't need a flower salad. They should clip off our hard-won tulip flowers and munch away at them in front of our eyes. That's just adding insult to injury. It's a learned behavior. Yeah, I'll have to see. We might have to pick this one up next week. Sarah, that reminds me, I have not gotten much more information on the little puffs of snow like aphids that you noticed a few weeks ago. Still working on that one too. So the list of good-natured research that needs to be done is growing. Yeah, see, then it launches from the rant about them doing it. It just goes into how to prevent it with deer repellent, fur from cats and dogs. Yeah.
Well,
So
I've got plenty of cat fur, so I can do that. Give it a try.
Anne says, I have daffodil bulbs with frequent flyer miles. Some years I've replanted the same bulb more than once. The traveling bulbs. All right, well, we'll keep working on that one, Laura. We maybe
Thanks, Pam.
give a little homework for next week, see what we can learn about the allure of the tulip blossoms. Let's see. The plant sales. So got a couple of them to make announcements about. This was yours, Chris. This is the Aurora Gardeners. This one takes place down on West Galena Boulevard. And this one runs the gamut. There's annuals and perennials. I'm not sure. I don't know if there's vegetables at this one. But
I have herbs that I'm bringing. I have
Okay.
some herbs, and sometimes, yes, there are vegetables, not our part of it, but it's pretty big.
Okay. Well, I
And
see
so-
food trucks and
Yeah, it's
garden art.
quite cool, actually. There's lots of stuff.
Good deal. And this
So
is, everybody mark your calendar. So this, and I think every weekend from now through June, there's going to be groups selling like wild ones, the plant sale that's coming up now in a couple of weeks. That one is strictly native plants, but also organic vegetables. This is to make your garden into an outdoor living space, because there's going to be furniture and garden art and everything. So yeah, put this one on your calendar, rain or shine. And then Sarah, we've got Plain Dirt Gardeners. That's actually coming up 2 weeks from this weekend. I love seeing how these all these sales are back again. You know, there was that hiatus. We were talking about that at a meeting today at the Nature Center, and how, you know, things are finally coming back, gaining momentum again. This is Plain Dirt Gardeners. This is a lot of locally grown things. So it's a means of the garden club members sharing their bounty. So this one is from 9 to noon down at Bethany Lutheran in Batavia. There's an email for more information. And let's see, down at the bottom. So there's their Facebook. All right. We got a couple additional chance. Tips for stopping squirrels from digging up bulbs, gardening, etc.com. All right. Thanks, Diane, for digging into that. Yeah, some of these topics I think will just be things we're going to have to continue to learn about. Maybe, you know, maybe I'll look at just what goes on inside of a tulip. Maybe there's some, you know, as the plant comes out of the bulb, maybe there's something there that seems attractive to our little squirrel friends. Yeah. What makes things interesting at this time of year, trying to figure out all these mysteries. All right, folks, we're coming up on 9 o'clock, and we've got, I'm surrounded by furry roommates right now. I think we're getting to the end of when they might feel, you know, that they have been good for long enough and it's time for a treat. So with that, I think we're gonna say goodnight, and hope to see y'all back again next week. All right. So happy Tuesday, everybody. Have a great rest of April. And next time we'll see you, it will be the merry month of May.
Thanks, Pam. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night. It's a lot.